Continuing that conversation about the U.S. airlines, they are seeking a rescue package of more than $50 billion from the government. Our own Phil LeBeau is the expert on all things airlines. And boy, do we have a million questions this morning for you, Phil. What's the latest?
Yeah, Andrew, the airlines, they're still trying to find the bottom here in terms of what's happening with demand. And to that end, yesterday we heard from Southwest dropping a second 8K within the last couple of weeks. In this case, they're saying when you look at the bookings for March and in terms of load factors, they're filling just 67% of the seats in the month of March, and it's quickly moving down to just 50% of the seats that are being filled. So that gives you some indication of just how much demand is falling off right now. They are looking to cut about 20% of their available seat miles. We'll probably get a schedule from them sometime in the next couple of weeks, and they have also instituted a hiring freeze. A couple other notes about the airlines. Delta and American, according to reports that are out overnight, they are both looking to secure short-term loans. The amount remains to be seen, but this is an indication that the airlines want to make sure that they have the liquidity necessary to ride out, at least in the near term, what is a plunging market in terms of the number of people who want to take a flight. And that's why when you look at the request for aid for the airline industry, they came out with this package yesterday and they said, look, we want $50 billion for the airlines, $8 billion for the cargo operators. And by the way, the airports, they also want money because, look, they're seeing less tax revenue, fewer people coming through, spending money at airports. They believe they should receive $10 billion. This morning, Airbus out of Europe saying it is going to be closing down its plants in Spain and in France for 4 days because of coronavirus. Remember, Spain and France are essentially in lockdowns over there, so they're going to be shutting down their plants in those two countries for 4 days. What about Boeing? What's happening there? Remember, they've got 6 coronavirus cases at the Everett plant where they build the 777 and the 787. The company's credit rating was cut by S&P down to BBB last night. There were some reports that it was BBB minus. No, it's BBB, 2 notches above junk status. The concern, according to S&P, it's cash flow. We already know what's going on with the MAX and the concerns there. Now you also have airline customers who might be deferring deliveries in the future. That's the concern for the Standard & Poor's and the credit rating cut. And finally, guys, we want to show you this 5-year chart. You see the end there, 132? That is below the price of Boeing shares when Dennis Muhlenberg took over back in 2015. It's all gone. Any of the gains under Dennis Muhlenberg, they have all been erased. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Phil, stay with us. We're going to talk Boeing in just half a second, but I have 2 quick questions. One is the decision at Airbus. 4 days does not seem like a lot, given that we've just been talking about this timeline getting pushed out potentially to months and many months. Do you think this is 4 days, reassess, and this is going to go on, and we're going to start to see this, by the way, potentially at Boeing and other companies as well?
Yes. I think that's what you're going to see with the manufacturers. They want to continue production. That's the bottom line. As much as they want to make sure people are safe, they also want to continue production. So in this case with Airbus, they're going to shut down those facilities for 4 days. Now, that's a little bit different, Andrew, over in Europe, because you've essentially got a lockdown in terms of people moving around within Spain, within France. And so they have decided in this case, we're going to shut down production. The question for Boeing, the question for auto manufacturers is, what happens when you have a case in a particular facility? Now, in this case, in Everett, Boeing has said, we're going to be working with the health officials in the area where the plant is located. If they believe, and if our employees say, look, we just don't feel safe in doing this, well, then they will shut down production. But at this point, Boeing is saying, look, the people out in the Seattle area, the public health officials have said it's still safe to continue production. They obviously do a deep cleaning when somebody in a particular area is found to have coronavirus. But this question is going to come up not only for Boeing, but for all manufacturers. What do you do when you have several hundred, several thousand people who are coming in and out of production facilities?
Becky's got a question for you, Phil.
Hey, Phil, I've just been thinking broadly about the Boeing, and I know we came up, I guess it was last week after the 1-year anniversary. And isn't that a time, the 1-year anniversary for the 737 MAX being grounded? Doesn't that mean that airlines could at that point decide to cancel the orders? We saw a raft of those things happening. And I just wonder, with airlines facing these incredible situations nobody would have assumed a week ago even, watching their cash flow disappear, would they be much more likely to cancel those orders? If everybody cancels the orders, where does that leave Boeing?
Depends on the airline, depends on their financial situation. Take a company like American Airlines, which is still scheduled to receive several 737 MAXs. It has the financial wherewithal that when their time comes to receive a particular aircraft, let's say it's late in the third quarter or the fourth quarter, they want that. Doug Parker has said, I would rather take a new airplane, pay for that new airplane, and retire an old airplane, sell it in the secondary market, do whatever you need to do there, as opposed to saying, no, I don't want the 737 MAX. But you're right, Becky, this brings up questions for airlines who may not have a decent balance sheet right now. And some of these are in Southeast Asia. When they're scheduled to take delivery of the MAX, will they? That's what S&P brought up last night. The belief is that you have airlines that are going to be weaker around the world, and some of these airlines are going to say, we're not taking delivery. Or we'll take delivery, but we're going to have to work on some new terms here because we just don't have the cash and the financial liquidity right now.
I just wonder if that's a huge issue that lawmakers start thinking about, too. When you're looking to protect industries, Boeing is going to be one that they care about an awful lot, despite all the troubles that it's had to this point. It means a lot of jobs here in the United States. That may be something they kind of work in. If we're going to fund the airlines, it's going to mean that you can't cancel these orders because we want to protect Boeing, too.
We can tell you, we can report that Boeing is talking with lawmakers in Washington and the Trump administration about some type of relief package, not just for Boeing, but for the aviation industry all around. The supply chain, companies like Spirit Aerosystems. How are these companies going to continue to be able to manufacture when they start ramping up production, which they're still expecting to do? They're going to need some backstop from the federal government. At least that's the early discussions that are taking place.